Yep. Okay, good evening everyone. So carrying on where we left off, so what we've been looking at the last few weeks is Abraham's family. And we saw last week how Abraham and Isaac together restored the foundation of faith. And so we're going to move on now to look at the story of Jacob and Esau, who had to restore the foundation of substance. Thank you very much indeed. And so the big picture here is God wants to send the Messiah. But God can only send the Messiah when human beings create the foundation to send the Messiah. So God doesn't know when human beings are going to do this. It's up to us. And so we saw how things went wrong in Adam's family and then Noah's family. And then Abraham then was successfully able to restore the foundation of faith. And the foundation of faith then is a vertical relationship with God. And the bigger picture is about creating a spiritual community. And the foundation of substance for Adam and Eve was that Adam and Eve should have become mature and perfected their character and had dominion over the angels and become laws of creation. But instead of developing a mature and perfect character, they fell. And so they developed a sinful character, developed fallen nature. And all kinds of problems arose as a result of that. So in the providence of restoration, people have to restore the foundation of faith and the foundation of substance, so that when the Messiah comes, it's possible for people to understand what he's talking about, and also even if they disagree with him, they won't kill him. Sometimes if you get into a violent, well, if you get into a strong argument with somebody, sometimes you feel like hitting them, don't you? Ever felt like that? And sometimes you see that in the streets all the time. People get into a terrible argument with each other, and they can end up, hitting each other, and sometimes people get killed. So that's then people's fallen nature coming out. And so God has to create a society, a world, in which even though people may disagree with the Messiah and argue with him, they won't get so upset with him, they try to kill him. Yeah, because they will overcome that aspect of their fallen nature. Yeah, so they'll overcome their fallen nature so that when Abel appears, the Messiah appears, then even if they disagree with him and they don't like what he's saying, still they won't get angry and try and kill him. But so that's necessary to create that kind of society. Anyway, so this is trying to do this here on the individual level, family. Anyway, so remember last week we talked about how Abraham, we talked about the binding of Isaac. And then when Abraham and Isaac came down Mount Moriah successfully, and they went home, they found that actually Sarah had died. Sarah died of shock at the idea of the son that she'd waited all those years to give birth to and had brought up, and the idea that Abraham had gone off to sacrifice him as a burnt offering was more than she could bear, and she died. This doesn't say it in the Bible, this is what it is in the Talmud, the Midrash.
Oh, really?
And she got such a shock at what happened, she died. Anyway, so they went home, and there was no Sarah anymore, so they buried Sarah. And then obviously they're very sad about that. And then Abraham decided time to find a wife for Isaac. So Isaac's 40 years old by this stage. After some years went by, he's 40 years old. And no, sorry, he was not 40 years old. Yeah, he was 40 years old when he got married to Rebecca. And so Abraham sent his servant off to visit Laban, and the servant went there to find a wife for Isaac, and this beautiful young lady called Rebecca appeared at the well and gave him water to drink and watered all his camels. And so he thought, what a good-natured young lady this is, will make a perfect spouse for my master's son. And she found out it was Rebecca, who was Laban's sister, and if you remember, Laban then was Abraham's nephew, I think, as far as I remember. Yeah. You can't see my back. When was he born? What was his date of birth? Haven't you checked the birth certificate yet? Okay. Anyway, so when Rebecca came back, then she saw Isaac, and she's so excited when she saw Isaac, and she fell off her camel. And there's basically the story is it was love at first sight. But anyway, despite the fact they loved each other very much, 20 years passed and Rebecca didn't have a child. And so again, a huge amount of heartache. So it's just like many of these fairy stories, start off the king and the queen, they're married for many years, they didn't have a child, and how much they long to have a child. And so this is the sense here that, when people have children, it's like a blessing, it's like a gift from God. It's not just a natural process. And so Rebecca asked Isaac, can you pray for me? And then Isaac prayed, and then it says that God opened her womb and she became pregnant. And so at this stage then, Isaac was 40 years old when he got married, and 60 years old when Jacob and Esau were born. And so when Rebecca was pregnant then, she had these twins, and there was a lot of fighting inside her womb. You know how it is sometimes, sort of tummy's bouncing around like this, and these feet and ankle and fists start appearing. And she found it a very painful experience, and so she said to God, if I knew it was going to be this painful, I wouldn't have wanted to have children. And so God told her, 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples, born of you shall be divided. One shall be stronger than the other, the elder shall serve the younger. Actually, the Hebrew itself is more ambiguous than this. In English, it's always translated like this, the elder shall serve the younger. But the Hebrew itself is quite ambiguous, and it could be read as the younger will serve the elder. It's actually ambiguous in the Hebrew. But anyway, this is how it's normally translated. And, so Rebecca herself understood it in a particular way. Anyway, then there was the experience where Isaac and Rebecca, they went to stay in Gerar, and Abimelech was there, and again, just as Abraham and Sarah pretended to be brother and sister, so Isaac and Rebecca also pretended to be brother and sister. And then when Abimelech found this out, he wasn't happy, but anyway, he sent them away and also gave them lots of wealth. So Rebecca then, she inherited very much the spirit of the character and the heart of Sarah. She resisted the temptation to to go after another man. Same lineage, same tradition of hospitality, and the same faith that Sarah had. So it's like, again, another mother of Israel.
So this process occurred 3 times then, because it happened to Abraham and Sarah twice. So it's happened to Rebecca once.
Yes. Yeah.
3 times. So interesting.
It wasn't as extreme as it was with Sarah. If you remember with Sarah, she was actually invited into the Pharaoh's palace.
Yes.
And the Pharaoh tried to seduce her.
Yeah.
Here, it didn't get to that point.
Oh, really?
It's just that they were brother and sister.
Oh, that's
nice. Didn't get to that point.
Okay.
Anyway, so the boys were born, and they were different. Jacob was smooth skinned, and Esau was hairy skinned, so obviously weren't identical twins. And then they started to grow up, and they got to a certain age, and Isaac called them and said to his sons, I have a birthright. The eldest son has a birthright. Because of this, that means he will, when I die, he will become the head of the family, and he will inherit the wealth, and also he has a lot of religious and spiritual duties to perform. So when Esau heard this, he said, well, I'm interested in the money and the wealth and the land, the wealth side, but not really interested in all this religious business. Whereas Jacob responded, actually, I wish I could have the birthright, because I'm really interested in taking care of the family and all the religious ceremonies and everything. And again, this is from the Talmud and Midrash. Anyway, so they grew older, and then one day Esau went out hunting, and he came back and he hadn't caught anything. He's really hungry. So what kind of a hunter do you think Esau was? Was he good at hunting or not good at hunting?
Probably not very good.
Not very good. There's another occasion where it took him a long time to come back. So he wasn't actually he enjoyed hunting, but he just wasn't very good at it. And so he came home and he's starving, hungry, and he went into the kitchen and he found Jacob cooking some bowl of lentil soup, red lentils. And he said to Jacob, give me some food, I'm starving, I'm going to die of starvation. And Jacob said, no, I can't give you this food's for Dad. I'm making a special meal for Dad. And Esau said, why are you giving Dad such rubbish food? He's not a vegetarian, giving him a bowl of lentil soup. And then Jacob said, well, it's because our grandfather Abraham has died, and so Dad is in mourning, and so he's eating this very simple kind of food because he's in mourning. And Esau said, well, anyway, I'm starving, give me something to eat. And Jacob said, what will you give me for it? And Esau said, well, what do you want? Jacob said, I'd like your birthright. And Esau said, okay, you can have my birthright. And so Jacob made him swear, write it all out in paper, signed and sealed, and he exchanged his birthright for a bowl of lentil soup. And the Bible says, thus Esau despised the birthright. So what do you think of this transaction then? What does this reveal? What's it about Jacob and Esau? Who's more clever and intelligent of the two?
Jacob.
Jacob. He's obviously clever.
Yes.
Not different between clever and intelligent. He was very clever. Yes. He sold a bowl of soup for the birthright. So was Esau very clever?
Not really, no.
So was what Jacob did, was it dishonest?
No, really.
Was it unethical?
It seemed unethical.
He didn't steal it, he sold it.
He didn't steal it, he sold it, that's right.
Yeah.
So what should Esau have done? I mean, we know what Esau did do, what should he have done?
Should have carried one without value.
In which case, what would he have done?
Not sold it, but
And he would have, so where would he have got food from?
he had to make it himself.
Yes. So he should have thought, oh, that's a bit expensive. I think I'm going to wait 10 minutes and go make myself a peanut butter and jam sandwich. But he didn't. Yeah, he's very impulsive. He was just hungry and he wanted to eat now, even if it cost him, the birthright. So he didn't really appreciate the birthright, didn't really understand the value of the birthright, and he's willing to just sell it for some lentil soup. So Jacob got it then. He didn't get it unethically. He didn't deceive his brother. He just bought it. But do you think his brother respected him? No, not really. Okay.
No.
Was that the best way to get the birthright?
I think,
Probably.
It was bought, not earned. It was bought,
It
but
was
not
bought.
earned.
Yes, it wasn't earned. So what should have happened is Esau should have willingly and freely given the birthright to Jacob. How can you imagine that ever happening?
Jacob proving he was more worthy
Yes.
through service.
Right, so it should have won Esau's respect. Yes? A very interesting story about this. Have you heard of King Sejong? No, he was the Korean king who came up with the Korean alphabet, Hangul. Anyway, he was the third son. He wasn't the oldest son, he was the third son, but he became the king. And normally, of course, when the old king dies, then the first son becomes the next king. But his Sejong then, he had two older brothers. But his older brothers realized that Sejong was actually much wiser than they were. They realized he's much wiser than we are, he's got much better character, he's much braver, he's much more intelligent. And actually, they, talking amongst themselves, they said, he'd make a much better king than either of us. Well, the problem was, he was number 3, and they were number 1 and 2. So they came up with a cunning plan, and they both misbehaved at court, in the royal court, and they behaved so badly, they were so rude, so disrespectful, got drunk and got into such trouble, they were kicked out of the court. One was sent to become a monk in a monastery, the other one was just kicked out and became a wanderer. And then when the king died, then the two older sons were out of action, and so Sejong then became the king. Yeah, that sort of thing doesn't happen often, does it?
No.
No, usually you read Shakespeare, Macbeth, and all these Richard III. It's all backstabbing, trying struggles to try and gain power. But that was
Also, too, the other story you always tell, about the best scary story, about Jonathan and David, anyway.
Yeah.
That also this
Right.
one played out there as well,
Same thing.
That Jonathan's heart was really very beautiful, like,
Yeah.
in the king position anyway.
Yes.
That even though the father went to David,
Yeah.
he was always
Yes.
protecting David anyway.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So again,
Very beautiful story.
yeah. So again, David won Jonathan's respect.
Yes.
Anyway, so what should have happened then? Okay, we can see what happened. They didn't get on with each other very much. Jacob was the kind of person who liked to be at home, helping with the cooking and doing all this religious stuff, and Esau liked to go hunting like a man's man. And they were very different kinds of people. So Jacob then, he should have tried to win Esau's respect. So I said Jacob's cleverer, and Esau liked hunting, but he wasn't very good at it. Yeah? So what should have happened? Jacob may have thought, oh, my brother's not very good at hunting, I wonder if I can help him. But what should be the proper attitude of a younger brother to the older brother? How do younger brothers normally treat and look at their older brothers?
Respect.
Respect. Usually they look up at them and hero worship them. Oh, older brother, what big muscles you've got. And so that's the original mind of a younger brother, is to hero worship his older brother. And so when they're both in the primary school and the younger brother gets beaten up attacked by some bullies, then of course the older brother goes along and protects his younger brother. That's a natural thing. So when the younger brother's looking up and hero worshipping his older brother, how does the older brother feel towards the younger brother? He feels love.
Yes.
Yeah? He wants to take care of his younger brother. If his younger brother gets into trouble, he'll go and protect him because he cares, he loves his younger brother. Yeah? Because his younger brother is looking up to him, admiring him, hero worshipping him. So that's how Jacob should have felt being towards Esau. But do you think that's the way he was? I don't think so. I think Jacob was being cleverer, probably made fun of Esau for being such a rubbish hunter and this, that and the other. But actually he should have looked up to Esau and respected Esau as his older brother and hero worshipped him. And then if he'd done that, then Esau would have loved his younger brother. And then Jacob, being cleverer, could have thought, oh, my older brother, he went out hunting but he didn't come back with anything today. I wonder if I can come up with an idea to help him. And so he might have said to Esau, look, Esau, I came up with an idea. Why don't you go and dig a big hole in the ground, like a big pit, and then cover it up with branches and leaves. So when the cow or the whatever it is comes along, it'll fall into the hole, and then you can kill it and catch it. Now, if Jacob had said this if Jacob said this to his older brother, you're such a great hunter, but I had an idea. What do you think? You're the expert. What do you think of my idea? Now, if Jacob had said that to Esau in that way, how would Esau have taken his idea? He would have thought, wow, I got a really clever brother. And he would have really respected his younger brother. And then he would have said to his younger brother, please explain to me how to do it. And then Esau, the older brother, would have listened to the younger brother. Is it easy for older brothers to listen to younger brothers normally? No. So that's the key to how to do that. Yeah. So that's what he should have done. And Esau would have listened to him. And Esau would have thought, that's brilliant. Why don't we go and do it together? So they would have united and gone down the hole together, and they would have gone into a hunting business together. Yeah. Jacob and Esau on co-limited hunters. Okay, that's what should have happened, but it didn't happen. Jacob didn't win Esau's love, and he didn't win Esau's respect. All he did was he bought the birthright, yeah? So, anyway, at least he bought it, he needed to buy it. He needed to get it, but there was a better way to do it. Anyway, the years go by, and then Isaac, by this stage, he's old and he's blind, and he thinks to himself, before I die, I want to bless my sons. And so he calls Esau and says to Esau, I want to bless you. And he says to Esau, before I give you my blessing, I want you to go and hunt and bring me my favorite meal, venison or something. So Esau goes off to hunt, to bring Isaac a meal before he receives Isaac's blessing. But then it says in the Bible that Rebecca overhears Isaac saying this to Esau. So she overhears Isaac saying this to Esau, and then she goes and calls Jacob, and Jacob is Rebecca's favourite, partly from the dream, partly because he's always at home looking with his mum. And Rebecca says to Jacob, look, you're the one who should get the blessing, not Esau, you're the one. And then Jacob says, but, that's not right. My father, that's deception. If my father finds out that I'm deceiving him, he's going to curse me instead. And Rebecca says to Jacob, don't worry, I'll take the blame. You go and do it. And so Rebecca then says, go and kill the kid, I'll cook it, and then put the skin on your arms, and then put on Esau's smelly old clothes, and go in. And so Jacob does it, he cooks a nice meal with Rebecca, dresses up, puts animal skins on his arms, puts on Esau's smelly old clothes, and goes in. And he says to his father, Father, I brought you a meal to eat up and bless me. And Isaac asks Jacob, who are you? Because he realizes not Esau's voice. And Jacob says, he says, Esau is your eldest. And again, the Hebrew there is quite ambiguous. It could be, I am Esau, your eldest, or it could just be a statement, Esau is your eldest, which could be interpreted in different ways. So again, he wasn't deceiving him, but he was speaking ambiguously. And then Esau said, well, you don't sound like Esau, you sound like Jacob, so come here, let me touch you. And so Jacob goes closer to Isaac, and Isaac feels his arms. Yes, you're hairy like my son, and you certainly smell like him as well. Obviously, I haven't had a bath in weeks. And then Isaac eats up the food, and then he gives his blessing to Jacob. Okay, so what do you think about that? What does that little episode reveal about Isaac and Rebecca's family?
Isaac and Rebecca. That is, I think they were not a united family actually. That there was a kind of cosmos of unity, like there was with them, Abraham and Sarah, really.
Right.
And
so if you think about it, who should have given the blessing to the children? Isaac said to Esau, I want to give you my blessing. So who should have given the blessing to Esau? Should it be Isaac and Rebecca together?
Yes.
They should have blessed Esau.
Yes.
Okay. So how did Rebecca find out that Isaac was planning to bless Esau? She was overheard.
Yes.
So that means they hadn't communicated, they hadn't discussed it, they hadn't talked about it.
Yes.
So that means that when they woke up in the morning, got out of their sleeping bags, they didn't pray and do Hundoke and said, what are we planning to do today? Yeah?
No.
Okay? So they weren't united in that sense.
Yes.
Yeah, they weren't communicating, they weren't discussing things. Okay? Alright, so Rebecca, so you can see then, obviously, even though at the beginning they were very much in love with each other, by this stage they obviously weren't talking to each other for some reason. It's not explained why, but obviously it's been a breakdown in communication. Okay, so anyway, Rebecca overhears Isaac saying this, so what should Rebecca have done? What should she have done?
Protested.
Well, I don't know about protesting, that probably would have led to an argument.
Just gone to Isaac instead.
Sorry?
Gone to Isaac
Yes.
instead of going to Jacob.
Yeah, she should, instead of going to Rebecca and coming up with her own plan on how to deceive Isaac, her husband, is it good to deceive your husband? No. Instead, she should have gone to Isaac and said, hi Isaac, how are you doing? Would you like some morning coffee? What are you planning to do today? And then Isaac, she should have asked a few questions gently. Then Isaac would have said, well actually I just sent Esau off and I'm going to give him my blessing. And Rebecca said, oh well, you didn't mention anything about that this morning when we got up. When did you think about this? And Isaac, and then gradually they would have entered into conversation. And then Rebecca would have said, well what kind of blessing are you going to give to Esau? And then Isaac would have explained. And then Rebecca could have said, well, don't you think it'd be nice if we actually gave him the blessing together? You know what I mean? So she'd have to come, it's not getting out with the frying pan, banging him over the head, or the rolling pin, or throwing cups and saucers at him, and getting angry, but just gently coaxed it out of him, even though inside she must have been probably quite furious, I would imagine, that Isaac was doing this without telling her about it. Yes.
But it doesn't seem that that was her mindset. Her mindset was dead set on Jacob getting the blessing. She would have to tell Isaac, Jacob should get the blessing, not Esau.
Right, and yes, so that's what she was thinking. She thought Isaac's going to give the blessing to Esau, but actually it should go to Jacob. But that's what she was thinking. But anyway, she shouldn't have. That was her way. That's her thinking. But she should have gone and discussed it with Isaac. So even though she thought that Jacob should have gotten the blessing, she should have discussed this with Isaac and persuaded him, if that's what she thought. Yeah, instead of going behind his back. So the first mistake was, obviously there's been a breakdown in communication. They weren't talking to each other, discussing to each other, and they weren't making plans together. Okay? So when they had different ideas about how things should be done. The second problem is that when Rebecca did realize what Isaac was going to do, instead of going to talk to him, she just went off and did her own providence. Then what about Jacob's reaction? How do you think about that? Did he feel it was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do?
He felt it was wrong.
Wrong. So what should he have done?
Gone to Isaac.
Or he could have said to Rebecca, Mum, have you discussed this with Dad? Yeah? That's the first thing.
But he did say
Well,
that, but he didn't say no. He was asking her, look, I don't look like my brother, I don't smell like my brother.
That's right.
So how can I fool?
That's right. Yes, so he obviously felt uncomfortable about it because he's afraid of getting cursed by his father because he realised it was wrong. Okay, so if he realised it was wrong, the first thing he should have done was said to Rebecca, have you discussed it with Dad? I don't want to go and trick and deceive Dad. It's not right, yes? So his conscience was telling him it's not right. So what should he have done? He shouldn't have done it. You should never go against your conscience. If you feel and you know something's wrong, you should never do it. Anyway, he explained his qualms to his mother, and then his mother said, if that happens, I'll take the blame for it. But is that possible? Can you take the blame for can somebody else take the blame for the mistake that you make? Who's responsible? If you make a mistake, who's responsible? You or somebody else? You. Yeah? And so first of all, Rebecca made a mistake in persuading her son to do something that he knew was wrong. Secondly, she said, I will take the blame. You can't take the blame. That's, everyone's responsible for their own mistakes. And then Jacob then allowed himself to be talked into doing something he knew was wrong. Yes? So all these things were wrong. Does that make sense? They're all unethical.
But did she think that, was she talking in terms of his fear of being cursed rather than of taking the blame?
Well, that's right. She said, if Isaac finds out and he curses you, then I'll take the blame.
I'll take the curse.
Yeah, well, I'll take the curse. I'll take the blame. I'll be responsible for your sin. You can't be responsible for somebody else's sin. You only be responsible for your own sins. Okay, so you can see here it's really quite complicated. So would you say this is an ideal family? No, the problem here between there's a problem here between Isaac and Rebecca. There's a problem between Jacob and Esau. There's also a problem between Rebecca and Jacob. There are all these relationships, there's something wrong with them, okay? They're not the way they're supposed to be. Yeah, something, in that sense, you could say they're corrupted or they're fallen, okay? Now, let's move on. And so we looked at what happened and what should have happened, all right? So everyone's responsible. For Jacob then, he found himself in a situation, he had to decide, how am I going to respond? I know it's the wrong thing to do, so am I going to say no, or am I going to do it even though I know it's wrong? So, each one of them had to react. They were responsible for their decisions they made. Anyway, let's move on then and have a look at the blessing that Isaac wanted to give to Esau, but he actually ended up giving to Jacob. So this is when Jacob came in and received Isaac's blessing, Isaac said to him, may God give you heaven's dew, and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. So what do you think about that blessing? What do you think about what's this blessing all about? What are the first 3 lines about? Mika, what's it about?
About material richness.
It's about material wealth, isn't it?
Mm.
And what's the next part about?
Power.
It's about power. May nations serve you, peoples bow down to you, be Lord over your brothers, may the sons of your mother bow down to you. Okay, so it's about wealth and power. Okay, so that's what Esau was interested in. He was interested in becoming wealthy and also in power. But anyway, this is the blessing that Isaac wanted to give to Esau that Jacob took. Anyway, Jacob went out of the tent, and not long after, Esau came back. And he'd been out hunting all day and been really unsuccessful. And according to the Midrash, the story goes, he went out hunting, he couldn't catch anything. He came across a dog, killed the dog and cooked it. And he took it into Isaac, and Isaac said, oh, it's a horrible smell, that food. Anyway, so Esau went into Isaac and said, here, Dad, I brought you some food. Please eat up and then bless me. And Isaac said, I've already given my blessing to you. Who was that who came in? And Esau said, it must have been my wretched younger brother. He took my birthright, now he's taking my blessing. And he wailed and he cried out. And so Esau then was really upset. Being tricked by his younger brother. He said he wailed. He was so upset. And Isaac himself, he trembled violently when he realized what had happened. He also was really shocked by what had happened, how he'd been tricked. And then Esau says, don't you have another blessing for me, Father? Isaac said, no, everything I've given to Jacob. I've given him all the wealth, and I've made him your master. And Esau was not happy about this. And it says that now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of my mourning for my father approach, and then I'll kill my brother Jacob. So you can imagine then, was Esau justified in feeling so angry?
Sure.
Yeah. His younger brother had stolen his inheritance. He was upset. He was justified in feeling angry at his younger brother stealing his inheritance. But did Esau love his parents?
Yes.
Yes. How do you know?
He's waiting for his father
That's right.
to pass.
Yeah, he thought, I don't want to upset my parents. I don't want my dad to be upset. So I'm going to wait till my parents die, at least my dad dies, and then I'm going to take it out on that wretched little brother of mine and kill him. Okay, you can see here, Esau was just an ordinary person. He was a good-hearted person, not as intelligent or clever as Jacob, but he was good-hearted, and he loved his parents, and so he wasn't going to upset his parents. And so you can see here that the foundation substance was not established. So what do you think about Jacob taking Esau's blessing? Do you think that's what should have happened or not? Well, we'll come on to that in a moment. I should have put it there. Okay. Another slide, which is a bit further on. Okay, since it was the principle, since it was the mother and son who allowed Satan to enter and bear fruit of sin, according to principle of restoration, through indemnity, mother and son are separated from Satan through their joint efforts. And so Rebecca then, she should restore Eve and Sarah's role by helping her sons to love each other. So with Cain and Abel, they got upset and angry with each other and one killed the other. So normally in a family, who is it that helps children to make up? Usually the mother, isn't it?
Yes.
It tries to, you broke your brother's toy, now go and say sorry to him and make up. Yeah. Okay, and also parents should model apologizing and forgiveness. Yeah. And so this is what Eve and Sarah done. They should have helped their sons to love each other and to forgive each other. So Rebecca wasn't able to do that with Jacob and Esau, partly because she favoured Jacob based upon her dream. I think it's good to love one child more than another?
No.
No, but Rebecca did. She loved Jacob more than she loved Esau. And that, you can imagine then, was a problem. You know, parents should love their children equally. Maybe differently, but certainly equally. But anyway, at least she saved Jacob's life by sending him to Haran. So she realized, you know, the last thing she wanted to happen was for her favourite son Jacob to be killed. And so she saved his life by saying to Jacob, look, go and stay with my uncle until Esau calms down and cools down, and then, you know, then you can come home again. And then Jacob then, before he went to Haran, he went to say goodbye to his dad. He went to say goodbye to Isaac. Then Isaac blessed Jacob. And Isaac said to Jacob, may God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so you may take possession of the land where you now live as an alien, the land God gave to Abraham. So what do you think about the quality of this blessing? Very different, isn't it? You can see, be fruitful and multiply. This is the blessing that God gave to Adam, and God gave to Noah, and that God gave to Abraham. And it's saying here, literally, you may he give you the blessing given to Abraham, and so you can have the land. Yeah? So it's a three blessing. Be fruitful, to multiply, and to have dominion over the land. And it's Abraham's blessing. So this then is a blessing that belongs to the person who has the birthright. So normally this would have been the eldest son. Yeah? But Esau sold the birthright to Jacob. So Jacob then became entitled to have the birthright blessing. And this is the birthright blessing. Yeah? It's the birthright blessing. And then the tradition is, again in the Midrash, that Abraham himself, he could tell that of the two sons, Esau and Jacob, he could see that Jacob was the better qualified to be his heir. And he actually told, according to the Midrash, he told Isaac, you know, you should give, you know, the covenantal blessing you should give to Jacob. Okay? Anyway, so Jacob then, he went off to Haran, and on the way, he had a dream, and this famous story, Jacob's ladder. And God said to Jacob, I am the Lord, I'll give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. All the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you and your offspring, and I'll bring you back to this land. Okay. The question then, should Jacob have gone to Haran? Was it necessary he went to Haran?
Well, Esau said he wouldn't kill Jacob until his father had passed.
Okay, let's just backtrack. Let's go back and review these blessings then, which I meant to do, but I forgot. Okay, so Jacob then, he ended up with how many blessings? 2. He ended up with his own blessing, but he also ended up with Esau's blessing. Was that what was supposed to happen? No, Isaac had it all worked out in his head. Isaac wanted to give a blessing to Esau and a blessing to Jacob, just as Abraham had blessed Ishmael and Isaac, and later on Jacob blessed all his 12 sons. So Isaac then wanted to bless both his sons. He wanted to give the first he wanted to bless his oldest son first because he was the oldest, and then he wanted to bless Jacob afterwards. So what was Isaac's problem then? Isaac wasn't stupid. Sometimes people say, oh, Isaac didn't know what he was doing. Actually, Isaac had it all worked out in his head. What was the problem?
Communicating.
Yeah, he hadn't explained it to Rebecca. So when Rebecca overheard Isaac saying to Esau, I want to give you my blessing, Rebecca misunderstood what was going on. She thought Isaac is going to give everything to Esau. And she thought, actually, Jacob should get all the blessing, everything. So she misunderstood what Isaac was doing. She thought Isaac was going to give the blessing, one blessing, everything to Esau. She didn't understand that Isaac had worked it out in his head. He was going to give one blessing to Esau and one blessing to Jacob. So So that's what happened then. Rebecca misunderstood. She should have gone and had a conversation with Isaac, and Isaac would explain what she is planning to do. And then Rebecca then would have understood, okay, now I understand. That's really good. You got this blessing for Esau and this blessing for Jacob. Let's bless them both together as, father and mother. Let's do this together. But she didn't do that. And so the result, Jacob took not only his own blessing, but he took Esau's as well. And by doing so, Esau became so angry he wanted to kill Jacob. Okay? So if this had happened, this would be like Cain killing Abel all over again. So what Jacob has to do, Jacob needs to have to make the foundation of substance. Esau has to love Jacob. Jacob has to make himself lovable. Esau has to respect Jacob. Jacob has to make it easy for Esau to respect him. Esau's supposed to listen to Jacob. Jacob needs to make it easy for his older brother to listen to him, and they have to unite together. But by taking Esau's blessing, actually, Jacob almost got himself killed. Yes? Yeah? Instead of helping Esau to overcome his fallen nature, he just strengthened Esau's fallen nature. Yeah? And he nearly got himself killed. Just as Abel behaved very arrogantly in front of Cain and got himself killed, Jacob also behaved very arrogantly in front of Esau and nearly got himself killed. So that then was a mistake. And then if that had happened the way it should have happened, there wouldn't have been any course into Haran, because they would have set up a hunting business together and they would have been united. Yeah? So that's what I've been teaching for the last couple of years. Yes?
What's the blessing that Jacob should have received originally?
He did. This blessing is the blessing that he should have received and the blessing he did receive. Isaac said to Jacob, "May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so you may take possession of the land where you now live as an alien, the land God gave to Abraham." So this is the Abrahamic blessing that Isaac gave to Jacob. It's the blessing given to Adam, the blessing given to Noah, the blessing given to Abraham. This is the birthright blessing. So Isaac gave that blessing to Jacob. He already planned to give that blessing to Jacob, and he did give it to Jacob. But the problem was, Jacob not only received his own blessing, he stole Esau's blessing as well, which wasn't for him. And that's why Esau got so angry and wanted to kill him.
And the different blessings, that the birthright was supposed to go to Esau.
No, Esau, because Esau was the oldest son,
Yes.
he automatically had the birthright.
Yes.
Jacob should have won the birthright from Esau,
Esau
in the
was
same
nice way.
in the same way that Sejong got the birthright from his two older brothers by winning their love and respect.
Oh, I see.
Jacob should have won the birthright from Esau. So if Jacob then had won Esau's love and respect and they worked together, then after a while Esau would have thought to himself, actually, when Dad dies, it'd be much better if Jacob becomes the head of the family than me. And then Esau would have gone to Isaac and said, "Look, Dad, I know I'm the eldest son, but honestly speaking, Jacob's much wiser than me, he's much better hearted than me, he's much more intelligent than me. He'd be a much better head of the family when you die. So I'm going to give him the birthright. I'm going to give him the birthright, yes? And I'm going to support him with all my heart, and I'm big and strong and I can do all that side of the stuff, but he's the one with the wisdom and the heart and the knowledge and, the good connection to God. So I want to support him as a good older brother, to look after my younger brother." That makes sense? That's what should have happened. So Jacob got the birthright, but he didn't win Esau's love and respect.
Oh, I see.
That's the problem. He just bought the birthright. So in buying the birthright, then he bought the right to this blessing. Yes? And then also Abraham advised Isaac, Jacob is the one who should receive the blessing. But Jacob couldn't have received this blessing if he hadn't got the birthright. Yeah? He had to get the birthright. So Isaac knew that Jacob had bought the birthright. And that's why he knew that Jacob was the one who's qualified to receive this blessing, even if he didn't get the birthright in the best way. So that's why when Esau said to Isaac, "Dad, haven't you got another blessing left?" Isaac didn't say, yes, I have, and give him Jacob's blessing. Because this was Jacob's blessing. Isaac couldn't give Esau Jacob's blessing because he wasn't entitled to it. So when Esau begged his father and said, Dad, haven't you got a blessing for me? Isaac just, didn't give this blessing because it wasn't for him. And that's why, Isaac was trembled so violent. It says in the Bible, he trembled violently because he realized what a terrible mistake had been made. Yes, and he realized, what terrible consequences would come from this terrible mistake. It says he trembled violently. He was really shocked, what had happened. He couldn't imagine, that Jacob would do this, steal his brother's blessing. He couldn't imagine that his wife would deceive him. Yeah, and that all the things he planned were just about to be destroyed. Yes, he worked it all out in his head. Very clearly, he knew what to do. The only problem was he didn't discuss it with his wife, and that caused all the problems. So should Jacob have gone to Haran? So as I said, I've been explaining this for the last couple of years, and sometimes people, disagree with the way I explain it. So I've been digging around and, looking at Father's words, see what he had to say about it. So this is what Father said in 1973. He said, did Jacob, as Abel, become really one with Esau as his Cain, thus subjugating Satan completely? Not originally. Yeah, so as I explained, originally Jacob should have won Esau's love and respect, but he didn't do that. As Father says, he didn't do that originally or to begin with. Jacob should have won the blessing in his native home in total harmony with Esau. So that's what I was explaining. He should have won the birthright, received it naturally from Esau, and would not have gone to Haran. So if Jacob had gone through what I said he should have gone through, then it would have been unnecessary to go to Haran because he wouldn't have had to escape for his life. However, he had to escape from the danger brought about by Esau's intention to kill him. That's the condition indemnity was not completed. Yeah? So he didn't do what he should have done. Didn't work out the way it was supposed to work out. Going to Haran was not the original plan at all. It was plan D. Plan A was digging the bear pit and setting up, then plan B was, okay, he bought the birthright. And so, quite a plan, so several halfway through the alphabet by this stage. And again, should have happened in this way. Well, again, this is Mrs. Yu, Gil-ja-sa, Yu, who was the wife of the president, the first president of the church, and she said, Jacob tricked Esau twice in order to take Esau's elder sonship. Once with a lentil stew, and tricked him again when receiving Isaac's blessing. However, that actually wasn't the correct way according to the principle. Had Jacob wanted to inherit the rights of the elder son, he should have served and behaved well to his older brother. Then the elder son's heart would have been moved, and he would have said, yes, you're not only smarter than me, but better in every aspect. So you should be my older brother. As you should be the one who should become the head of the family. Get the birthright. If Jacob brought this older brother into natural subjugation like this, so much could have been saved in the course of indemnity. Yeah? Make sense? So anyway, I just found this out. I got fed up with people disagreeing with me. To be honest, the way I teach it makes sense to me. And everybody says, oh, that's not the way Father teaches it, that's not the way we were taught it. So I said, okay, well, let's go and have a look. Let's go and find some proof texts. So that means if you disagree with me, you disagree with Father. Okay? You disagree with Mrs. Yu, and all it means is you don't understand the story correctly, and you haven't been taught correctly. Right? So the Empire Strikes Back.
So is this actually direct quotation?
Yes. I didn't make it up, it's a direct quotation.
Don't move it, I'll write it down.
You can write it down if you want, yeah. So, I don't know if you, I have the book, I bought the book when I was at Chongpyong. It came out a couple of years ago.
How do the Christians see this story?
Well, they think that, well, Christians, generally speaking, Christians believe in something called predestination. So they believe that everything happens according to the plan of God. And so they would say this is what was God's plan, but also they regard Jacob as being deceitful and tricky and not as a good role model. So they can't. It's kind of, for Christians, it's like it's problematic, and this sort of feeds into anti-Semitism. Oh, Jacob was like that. He was the ancestor of the Jews, and all Jews are like that as well. So that's where that feeds in.
So they believe it was meant to happen, but
They
don't like the methods.
They don't like the method. There's a difference in a Christian interpretation, Jewish interpretation. Christians say that what Jacob did was unethical and he shouldn't have done it. But at the same time, they also believe in predestination, so it's kind of... Yeah, anyway, Christians have a lot of problems interpreting the Old Testament.
They don't seem to focus on it very
Sorry?
much. They don't seem to focus on it
No,
so much.
they don't. They would focus, for example, quite a lot on the Abraham and Isaac, the binding of Isaac, because they would see that as foreshadowing the crucifixion of Jesus. So when Christians read the Old Testament, they're reading the Old Testament through the prism of the life of Jesus, particularly the crucifixion of Jesus.
So they're going backwards.
Yeah, so looking backwards, so they're trying to find out where was Jesus' life prefigured in the Old Testament. In other words, the Old Testament. So that's what they're looking for, those sorts of things. Yeah.
I see.
Okay, so Jacob then, he had to escape with his life because he made this serious error, a serious mistake. And he went to Haran and he was there for 21 years. So why do you think he was there for 21 years? What does the number 21 represent?
Completion, reformation, growth, completion.
That's right. So after 21 years, you're supposed to be a mature, mature adult. Yeah. So if you look back at Jacob, when that story is going on with getting the blessing, was Jacob acting in a mature way or an immature way? Immature way, wasn't it? He was immature. Okay, and that's why things went wrong. So there are problems with Isaac, there are problems with Rebecca and the relationship they have with each other. There are problems with Jacob and this, that. So lots of problems. Esau was just Esau.
But that lesson was going to be given out before they were 21?
What?
During that period of what time was that lesson given out?
I don't know if it says how old they were. I think it's generally understood they were 40 years old, as far as I remember. As far as I remember, they were 40 when Isaac wanted to give the blessing. And so he went for 21 years. Okay, he had his 21 years of time during which he had to grow up and become responsible for his actions. Instead of, Mum will take the blame if something goes wrong. That's being irresponsible. That's a sign of immaturity. Yeah. So he went there. Anyway, so he went for 21. He went to Haran. When he arrived in Haran, he went to the well, and he was thirsty. And a beautiful young girl came, gave him some water, and he fell in love with her. Love at first sight. Said, "Who are you?" And she said, "I'm Laban's daughter." And he said, "Oh, you're my cousin. I've come to visit you and stay for a while." So, she took him home. He was introduced to her mom and dad. And then Jacob said to Laban, "Can I marry Rachel, please?" And Laban said, "Yeah, sure, why not? Just work for me for 7 years, looking after the sheep, and then you can marry her." So Jacob didn't think, 7 years, man. I'm sure if I go to the next village, I can work for a week and get a wife. 7 years is a long time to work to get married.
But, sorry to cut you short, but Laban, he sounded like a businessman more.
He was a businessman, a
Yeah,
tricky
uncle.
businessman. Yeah, he was. He was a businessman, and rather, he was the archetypal wicked uncle, basically, and kept taking advantage of him. Anyway, so Jacob then worked for 7 years, and the Bible is very romantic because it says the 7 years, Jacob loved Rachel so much, the 7 years were like 7 weeks. And so the time flew by, and then 7 years were up. It was a wedding. They had a wedding, and you know how the bride's got veils on. You know, I mean normally nowadays it's a see-through veil, but in the Middle East there's veil upon veil upon veil. And so Jacob then he went up and he got married to this, what he assumed was Rachel, and they went into, after the feast and celebration and everything, they both went to bed. And then when Jacob woke up in the morning to look at his beautiful wife, he found, instead of Rachel in bed with him, he found Leah, who was her older sister, who, he didn't want to marry and didn't love at all, which is really sad. Anyway, so Jacob then, he went to see Laban and said, what's the meaning of this? I worked for 7 years to get married to Rachel. Why have you married me to Leah, her older sister? And Laban said, we don't marry the younger one till the older one is married. And in other words, we don't do what you did. You tricked your brother. And that's not our custom here. And then Jacob then he realized actually it's payback time. What goes around comes around. He realized, from the words that Laban said is exactly the same sort of words that were said before. I can't remember what they were. And it was like, let's see if I can find them. It might be in my notes. I don't think so.
Do you actually think he felt that, or did he just accept it their custom?
Well, it's written in the Bible as if it would be incredibly obvious that he would know that's what it was. I haven't got that little passage here because it's very similar.
But would he have thought that way? Would he have thought,
I think so,
well, I'm getting my justice, or would he have thought, well, that's their custom, I have to accept it?
No, I think he would have thought, why did this happen? Sometimes when something bad happens to you, it's natural to think, is there some reason why this happened to me? And sometimes you think, is there some mistake I made, or am I being punished? And so the biblical text itself is very clear because of what Laban said to Jacob and what was said in the conversation earlier on with Isaac, and that is the same sentence basically, which implies that this is happening to you because of the way you treated your older brother. We don't do it here. We don't treat our older brothers like that, or our older sisters like that. For Rachel to have got married before Leah would be an affront.
So what Jacob would have had to have done when he arrived at his uncle's house, he would have had to explain the reason for him being there.
Probably. Or, I'm sure they would have found out. Either he would have heard over the years, what had gone on, or, they were family. They're probably tradesmen going backwards and forwards. I'm sure the news would have come back about, the real reason why Jacob had fled for his life. I'm sure that Laban would have heard about what had gone on, and no doubt about that whatsoever. And so Jacob then, I'm sure he would have felt, maybe this is because I treated Esau like that, and then, being deceived himself, then he could understand, that's why Esau was so upset and so angry. Yes? Now I realise how I mistreated my older brother. Yeah, because he was mistreated like that himself. Anyway, Laban said, well, don't worry, you just need to work for me for another 7 years and you can marry Rachel. And so Jacob worked for Laban for another 7 years, and then he got married to Rachel. And in between, Leah had children, one child after another. And Rachel didn't have any children. And which wife did Jacob love the most? Rachel. How do you think Leah felt?
I think people it's had her rights, really.
Very
Sad her rights.
Jealous, yeah, very sad. And you can see in the name she gives to her sons, one son is, I can't remember which one it is now, maybe because of this, then maybe my husband will love me now. So she's thinking by, producing all these children, she would win her husband's love. Because he had 2 wives and he had to share the amount of time he spent in each other's tents. But he never really loved Leah. And so Leah felt incredibly hurt. Yeah, both of them wanted to win the love of one man. But for Rachel also, she wasn't having any children. So also she was incredibly suffering a lot. She wanted to have a son and children for her husband, but she couldn't, but her sister was. And so you can imagine how jealous she would have felt of Leah as well. So it's incredibly complicated, this relationship then between these sisters. It's much more, the relationship between Leah and Rachel is much more complicated than the relationship between Cain and Abel or Jacob and Esau. Yeah? Isn't it? It's like saying in the classroom, you know, when you're at school, the problems that boys have with each other at school is relatively simple compared to the girls. Ooh, a little word here, a little look here. It's very subtle. The boys, bang. Okay, we can see what's going on. With the girls, it's really subtle, kind of excluding and very different kind of thing, and a lot of emotion there. Yeah. And so, really complicated relationship between Rachel and Leah. And so again, this goes back a little bit to this relationship between Sarah and Hagar. Yeah, Hagar was able to have a child, and Sarah wasn't. Very complicated. You know, this sort of thing. It's all about love, very emotional. Anyway, so through this then, so eventually then Rachel, she wasn't having any children, so she said to Jacob, you know, I have a maid. Please sleep with my maid, and then through my maid I can have a child, a son. So it's like a surrogate mother. Yes. So Rachel's maid became the surrogate mother for Rachel's child. And so Rachel's maid then had 2 children, 2 sons. And then Leah stopped having them for a while, so she gave her maid to Jacob and had some more sons with her. And eventually Rachel fell pregnant. And, you know, again, they went through a lot of inner struggle, inner suffering before she could get to that point that she had a child, Joseph.
But one thing it doesn't say, what son did Hagar give up to Rachel?
Hagar's son was Ishmael.
Yeah, what son, if he was as a surrogate, then after the birth would have been given up to...
Well, they would have done, but then Sarah herself became pregnant, had Isaac, and then, you know...
Yeah, but before that, Hagar had more children before she got...
No, Hagar only had one child, Ishmael. Leah had, I think, 9 sons.
Leah?
No.
Leah had 6.
Oh, that's right, thank you.
Yeah, 6.
And the maids had a few.
I mean, we had 2 children.
Yeah.
And then Rachel had 2, you know, before she had the second one she passed away. But then I made also give Jacob and 2 sons.
Right.
To give them. I think it was Leah that was Dinah.
Leah had one daughter, Dinah.
Dinah, yes. I think so.
Okay, so 14 years passed by, and Jacob, being tricked, became a person of character, and they said to Laban, maybe I'll go home now. But Laban said, well, just stay for me and work for me for another 7 years, and then I'll give you a lot of wealth. And then when you go home, you can go home very wealthy. And so Jacob then worked for Laban for another 7 years. But again, during this time, it says in the Bible, 10 times Laban tricked Jacob out of his wages. So he should have, at the beginning of the year, okay, these are the targets, these are the goals, this will be your bonus if you make it. But at the end of the year, then Laban would somehow rearrange things so he couldn't get his bonus. And so 10 times then Jacob got tricked out of his wages. But anyway, at the end of the 7 years, Jacob had arranged it so he ended up incredibly wealthy, because the way he bred the sheep. And so at the end of this 21 years, Jacob became a person of great character. He went through incredible suffering. But this made him a very reflective person. Instead of getting upset and angry, the more he was mistreated, the deeper a person he became. And became a person of very deep heart and character. Just like some people who went to prison, like Nelson Mandela, and people who went to concentration camps and things. They were able to digest and deal with this incredible injustice and the suffering, and they became people of incredible wisdom, incredible depth of character. And that's what Jacob did. He became this kind of a person. He really grew up and became a mature person of great depth and character. And then, as I said, he established a family with 12 sons, 1 daughter. And then he acquired a lot of wealth. And then he left Laban and he went home. And on the way, buried Laban's idols under an oak tree. And they left. And then, you can see here, this is what Father said. How did Jacob change? Father said, Jacob felt sorry for what he'd done to his elder brother. Yeah? He thought it was understandable for Esau to want to kill him when he'd taken away the birthright by cheating. Well, it was a blessing he took away by cheating. And he was sympathetic with his brother. Okay? So that's what Father interpreted. Yeah? No, actually, through this experience, Jacob came to realize, he felt sorry for his brother. He realized that he had made a mistake. And that Esau's reaction was understandable. It was natural. Esau wasn't a bad person, he was just Esau, a natural person. Anyway, so Jacob then goes to meet Esau. So the reason he doesn't go straight home, he goes to meet Esau because he realizes, before I can go and see Mum and Dad, I have to go make it up with my brother. Yes? That's what he wanted to go and see Esau. He realized, I've got to go and make things up with my brother. And so he sends messengers before him to his brother Esau, saying, I, Jacob, have sent to tell my Lord in order that I might find favour in your sight. So Jacob's thinking, I've been away for 21 years, I'm going to tell Esau I'm coming home, and maybe he'll put on a party to welcome me home. Yes? Maybe I'll find favour in your sight, put on a party. But then the messengers returned to Jacob saying, we came to your brother Esau, and he's coming to meet you, and 400 men with him. And Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. So Jacob realized, Esau still hasn't forgiven me. Yeah, he's coming to meet with 400 men. So
was that the actual meaning of that? The 400 soldiers, 400 men. Not soldiers, men.
400 men.
The actual meaning of?
Well, anyway, Jacob interpreted it as it says Jacob's greatly afraid and distressed. So he's afraid he might have to fight Esau. He's afraid he might get killed and his family put into slavery. Or he's afraid he might fight Esau and end up killing Esau. Yeah, which he wouldn't want to do either, because he wanted to restore and make it up with his brother. He didn't want to get killed or kill him. Yeah, wanted to make it up. So Jacob then had to come up with a plan. So he divided everything he had into 2 and sent 1/2 of everything he owned to Esau as a gift. And the shepherd who was taking his sheep or goats said, when they approached Esau, and Esau said, who owns this flock of sheep? And the messenger said, the shepherd said, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are presents sent to my lord Esau, and moreover he is behind us. So Jacob was thinking, I may appease him, with the present. In other words, I can make him feel less angry with me. I may appease him with a present that goes before me, and afterwards I shall see his face, and perhaps he'll accept me. So you can see here, Jacob really wants to be accepted by his brother. Jacob doesn't think, he's coming to meet with 400 men. Well, if he doesn't want to meet me, and he's that upset with me, perhaps I'll just avoid him and go straight home. But Jacob realized at the risk of his life, I'm going to go and meet my brother, because he felt, I have to make it up. Yeah, I got to go and restore the mistake that I made. So he has to try and figure out how to do that. And then the day before he meets Esau, then he sleeps by the ford of Jabbok, which is a little stream running into the river Jordan. And during the sleep, it says that a man, which is interpreted as being an angel, came and wrestled with him. And he wrestled through the night, struggling and struggling. And just before daybreak, when the angel wants to go, and Jacob says, no, I'm not going to let you tell me what your name is. He wouldn't tell him. He said, before you go, you have to bless me. And the angel says, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For you've striven with God and with men and have prevailed. So Israel means the one who won the victory, being victorious over God and over men.
So how did Jacob do it?
Sorry?
How did he know that he was an angel? Or he would receive the blessing? Sorry. How did Jacob know that he should ask for the blessing before he
Well,
knew?
that's just, he was just struggling with him. That's just what he did. And so struggling with God and with man is making the foundation of faith and the foundation of substance. So whether it's in the Bible, it says it was a man. Generally speaking, it's interpreted as being an angel. But if you think about it, how did Jacob feel at this stage about meeting Esau?
Yeah.
Fearful, nervous. Yeah. Now, if Jacob went to meet Esau, feeling nervous and afraid, how would Esau pick that up?
I think so.
Yes. Okay. If you see a dog and you're nervous and afraid, what will a dog do? Attack you. But if you're completely at peace and calm within yourself and radiating calm and peace, what will the dog do? Yeah. So Jacob then, if he approached Esau feeling afraid and fearful, then would Esau respect him? No. So Jacob then had to radiate peace. If he's going to make peace with his brother, he has to be radiating peace and love. Yes? So that means he has to overcome his fears. And so I think this is what was going on. During the night, he was wrestling with his fears. He was like having a nightmare, he was struggling and wrestling with his fears. Should I run away or should I go over? Yes? Yeah? And he overcame his fears. He mastered his fears. And so when he got up the next morning to go meet Esau, he was completely at peace with himself and at one witness with himself, yeah? And able to just, accept whatever came to him. He's just completely at peace. And because of this, then Esau picked it up. Esau didn't pick up anything nervous or fearful which would have stimulated his own aggression and nastiness. But he just was touched by Jacob's peace that he's radiating. Yeah? That's how I understand it. And then Jacob went on, bowing himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. So what was Jacob doing here? Before the day before the dream and wrestling with the angel, what had Jacob done? He'd sent gifts to his brother, yes? And now he's bowing down to his brother 7 times. So what is Jacob doing?
Serving Esau.
What was the blessing that Jacob stole from Esau?
Brothers without time to.
That's right. The blessing that Isaac wanted to give to Esau was wealth and power. Your brothers, the sons of your mother, will bow down to you. Okay, but Jacob took that blessing. So what Jacob's doing here, he's returning the blessing he stole. He's offered wealth to Esau, which is what Esau wanted, and now he's bowing down to Esau 7 times. So he's enacting the blessing that he stole from Esau. So he's returning the blessing to Esau that he took from Esau. So when Esau saw this, Esau understood what Jacob was doing. He understood Jacob is saying sorry. Jacob is returning to me what he took from me. Yes? And so that's why Esau was overwhelmed. And he ran towards Jacob and embraced him and kissed him. Yeah? And they wept. Because Esau's heart was moved. He realized my younger brother is behaving like a good younger brother. All the time when they were growing up, he wasn't behaving like a good younger brother. But now, at last, he's behaving like a good younger brother. He's my younger brother. So of course I want to love him and embrace him and protect him, because he's my younger brother. Yes? He's hero worshipping me. And we look at the words, the conversation. Esau, what do you mean by all this company, not all the flocks of sheep that I met? Jacob, to find favor in the sight of my Lord. So you can see here how Jacob is treating his older brother with great respect, not to find, calling him my Lord. Yeah? And Esau says, it's okay, I have enough, my brother. So here Esau then is recognizing him and treating him, my brother. That's our relationship, yeah? My brother, keep what you have for yourself. Well, then Jacob goes on, I pray you, if I found favour in your sight, then accept my present from my hand. So the word present here is blessing. In Hebrew, it's blessing. In other words, receive the blessing that I'm giving you. Yes? For truly to see your face is like seeing the face of God. It's like hero worship. He's looking up to his older brother. To see your face is like seeing the face of God. Yes? That's, looking up to his brother with great admiration. With such favour you receive me. Accept, I pray you, my gift, my blessing, that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me and because I have enough. So he didn't say, look, I've worked really hard and look how wealthy and rich I am and I'm going to give you some. But he's saying, no, look, God has dealt graciously with me. Yes? So he's being very humble. And I have enough. Yes, I want to give it to you, because I've got enough. I want to share what I have with you. So he's being very humble. And so because of this then, it's easy for Esau to love him and to respect him. And so this then is the foundation of substance. So Jacob then makes it easy for Esau to overcome his fallen nature. Jacob doesn't go and say, Esau, you have to bow down to me. No. Jacob bows down to Esau. Jacob is a good younger brother. He's a good Abel. And then Esau then behaves like a good older brother. Younger brother and older brother, that's fixed for eternity. Even if you become the prime minister and you go home for the Christmas and your older brother's there, can you behave like the prime minister in your family? No. Does your older brother and your older sister, do they tease you? Yes, because you're their little brother. You can't say, well, I'm the prime minister. Doesn't work, does it? So Jacob then had to be a good younger brother. And then helped Esau to overcome his fallen nature. And so together they fulfill the foundation, the condition to remove the fallen nature. So what happened next? That's really important. So after this, then Esau said to Jacob, why don't you come and stay with me in Edom? So this is where Esau's hanging out in this Edom, which is this red area. And then Isaac and Rebecca, they were living in what's now Judah, just above where they got the word Judah. Jacob says, well, I'll come, but not yet, I'll come along later. Anyway, so Esau goes home to Edom, and then Jacob, instead of going to stay with his brother Esau, he goes home and visits Isaac and Rebecca, and they don't meet up again until Isaac dies and they bury Isaac together. Okay? Then Jacob becomes an ancestor of the Hebrews, and Esau becomes an ancestor of the Edomites, and these two groups are enemies, and they fight a lot until not long before the birth of Jesus. Then the Edomites, they convert and they become Jews. I think they're forcibly converted to Judaism. So you can see here the foundation to receive the Messiah should have been based on the unity of Jacob and Esau, in which case it would be based on the unity of the descendants of Jacob and Esau, which would have been a much bigger foundation to receive the Messiah, a much stronger foundation to receive the Messiah. Yeah? Instead it was only through Jacob's side. So we have to ask ourselves then, did Jacob and Esau really make the foundation of substance? So for Jacob and Esau to fulfill the indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature, Esau needed to love Jacob. So by the end, did Esau love Jacob? Yes. Esau had to respect Jacob as his mediator to God. So did Esau respect Jacob? I think so. You could see Jacob's a person of great character, he's got all these big family, very wealthy. He could easily respect Jacob. Jacob could easily win Esau's respect. But did Esau obediently submit? In other words, did Esau listen to Jacob's directions? No evidence for that. Did they multiply goodness together? Did they unite and work together? No, they separated. Yeah? So the foundation to receive the Messiah wasn't actually established by Jacob and Esau. The greatness of Jacob was that he realized he made a mistake and he restored it. That was his greatness. He realized, I made a mistake, and at the risk of my life, I'm going to correct the mistake I've made and, be reconciled to Esau. But they didn't make a foundation of substance to receive the Messiah, because the Messiah didn't come on their foundation. Yeah? That makes sense? So this then became this foundation. So Jacob then established a pattern for the natural and voluntary subjugation of Satan by winning Esau's heart and respect. So, if you make, so Jacob then, if you're a leader and you make a mistake, then you should do what Jacob did. Oh, I made a mistake, I should restore it. And Jacob restored the mistake he'd made. So this is a pattern later followed by Joseph and Moses and Jesus and Father as well. So Abraham's family then established a heavenly tradition, and that's why in the play it talks about the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, which of course are the three great kingships. Okay, so that then became the foundation to receive the Messiah and the foundation for Jesus. So from Jacob then had 12 sons and this foundation. Messiah came. Okay, that's the end, yes?
That's the end, is it?
That's half past 8.
Yes. Half past, go back, but you're right.
Sorry?
You're right, it's 1 past 6, you're right.
Yeah.